We call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. Can I get confirmation of the agenda? Well, we have an amendment to the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder for an amendment of the agenda? Councilor Trombley and Councilor Jiguer. Councilor Trombley is online.
Yes. Moved by Councillor Tremblay, seconded by Councillor Jiguer, that the agenda for the special council meeting of December 11th, 2023 be amended to include item 5E, emergency preparedness grant.
All in favor? Carried. Can I get a mover and a seconder to approve the amended agenda? Councilor Bernie and Councilor Trombley.
Moved by Councillor Bernier, seconded by Councillor Tremblay, that the agenda for the special council meeting of December 11th, 2023 be approved as amended.
All in favor? Carried. Can I get someone to move that we look at the financial statements of the corporation? Or- What's this? What they're wrong there?
It's after that.
It's after that, okay. Is there any exposure or pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? I see none. The delegations of presentations. KPMG 2022 fiscal year end audit. I'll turn it over to Kabina and his auditor.
Thank you. We have KPMG, our auditors, being represented by Mr. Oscar. Oscar, could you please? Yeah.
All right.
Available. Okay. Okay. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are ready. Council and mayor and the town will be required for us.
Thank you very much. Well, good evening, your worship, members of council. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to be here today to present the financial statements for the town of Iroquois Falls for the year ended December 31st, 2022. The presentation deck that I am going to walk council through today, there's one minor change with respect to the landfill liabilities, but other than that, it's exactly the same as what you would have received in your agenda package. So with respect to the audit, we have completed our audit in accordance with Canadian auditing standards, and these are the rules that govern how you conduct audits in Canada. What you'll notice from the opinion that we've provided is it doesn't say that your financial statements are accurate, because that would require us to test every transaction. Rather, what it does say is that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects, and materiality is the threshold of errors that we're able to absorb before we either change the audit opinion or have management correct them. So our materiality is $226,000 for the year. It's calculated based on 2% of prior revenues. We use materiality for a number of different purposes. We use it, for example, to calculate our sample sizes, but the most relevant point of materiality for the purposes of council, I would suggest to you, is it determines what's called our posting threshold. And this is the level above which, if we have any uncorrected errors, we actually have to report them at this time to council. It's calculated as 5% of materiality, or $11,000. And just to put it in perspective, that represents a very small percentage of your total revenues and of your total assets. And you can see the percentages on the screen. So this is sort of the precision that we have from an audit perspective. Our audit opinion is unqualified, which is the highest level of assurance that you can receive under Canadian auditing standards. And when we say unqualified, it means there's nothing we've had to do to modify it. So this is a clean opinion. Basically, what we need is there's three things that are required. First off is we have to have a final approval by mayor and council tonight. So financial statements are live until such time as they're approved by council. We need to receive a management representation letter, which is a form that's completed by your staff that basically provides assertion to us that they've given us all of the requested information. There's nothing that they haven't disclosed. And then we just need to finalize the file and put it together. There are no matters of significance that we have identified during the course of our audit that we believe we have to communicate to council. No difficulties or significant differences with management, no limitations on our scope, no issues around internal controls or indicators of fraud. And also there's no uncorrected audit differences above our posting threshold. When we describe this as a clean audit, this is about as clean as it gets. So with respect to the financial statements, the first statement is the statement of financial position, and this is a summary of your assets and liabilities at year end. You'll see that your cash balances and investment balances have gone down by about $200,000 on a year-over-year basis. During the year, the municipality generated an operating surplus once you adjust for cash items and working capital of about $3.7 million. 3.6 million of that was used to buy investments in infrastructure, and 300,000 of that was used to repay long-term debt. So the net difference is the $200,000 decrease in your cash. You can see that your accounts receivable, which is broken down between taxes receivable, general accounts receivable, and amounts due from the Government of Canada, have increased by about $61,000. Part of this is your taxes receivable. It's up by about $124,000. What you can see is that your taxes receivable are roughly about 22 to 23% of your total levy. In addition, your HST receivable is up by about $200,000. Generally speaking, as municipalities buy capital towards the end of the year, their HST receivable balances come up because you do get a piece of that. Accounts payable and accrued liabilities, which represent bills that are outstanding at year end that you incurred prior to year end but pay after year end, generally consistent with the prior year at around $2 million. This is a combination of trade payables, things like your hydro bills, that type of stuff, accrued wages and benefits, and also a provision for assessment appeal. So just for the information of council, this is a bit of a buildup of your taxes receivable and others receivable. What you can see is that a big chunk of this is taxes, including a portion that's been outstanding for 3 years and more. There is an allowance taken against that. There's amounts receivable for water and sewer billings, for HST, some accrued investment on your accrued interest, on your investments, and also some other receivables that are outstanding. In terms of payables, you can see that trades payables are about $1 million. And once again, this relates to things like your hydro billings, that type of stuff. There's a variety of different employee remittances and benefits that are payable. So some wages, remittances, and various banks for vacation and stat time. You do record holdbacks on construction projects. This is the 5% that you typically hold from contractors. There is about $240,000 of payables outstanding with respect to the streetlight retrofit project. This is something that you've seen every year. And then once again, the provision for the assessment appeal. This is the reserve that the municipality has set up, for lack of a better term, in the event that you lose assessment appeals. So in terms of other liabilities, deferred revenue is broken down into two categories. There's general deferred revenue and then obligatory reserve funds. These are down by about $521,000. And the big change there is with respect to gas tax. So under the gas tax program, you receive an annual allocation for gas tax. You don't necessarily have to spend it all in a year. You can bank it up and save it and then take it into income over time. So what you'll see is you started with $608,000 of gas tax. There's about $303,000 received plus interest. You took about $867,000 into income this year to fund a capital project. So that's left $44,000 outstanding, which is this obligatory reserve fund. Other reserves or deferred revenue is basically the tax stabilization. That's a $650,000 grant that the municipality has received specifically to fund cases of assessment appeal. And that $650,000 grant is basically to fund this liability. So you can see that your landfill closure, post-closure costs have gone down on this version. This is the change that we've made to the previous version. It's gone down by about $1.6 million. And this, council, is an accounting number. What you're required to do is to estimate what it's going to cost you to close your landfill in about 21 years and then monitor it for 25 years after that. And so the way that you do it is you calculate it and then you discount it into today's dollars based on long-term borrowing rates. And so because interest rates have gone up in the last year, your long-term borrowing rate has gone up. And what that does is, from a calculation perspective, it brings this number down. Council, I just want to let you know, you'll never actually have to cut a check for this amount. You're not required to pay $1.9 million. This is money that you're going to spend 22 years into the future, up until 47 years into the future, and you'll pay it over time. This number, for lack of a better term, is an accounting number. It's actually not a cash liability, if you will. In terms of other liabilities, there's long-term debt. That has gone down by about $328,000, and there's two factors here. During the year, there was a new capital lease for a John Deere backhoe for about $159,000, brings this number up. You finance this through the leasing program through the Royal Bank. And then there were principal repayments on your debt of $457,000 that bring this number down. So in terms of other assets, your tangible capital assets have gone up by about $1.9 million. So you purchased $3.9 million of capital additions during the year. This is the investment that you make in your infrastructure and your assets. Offsetting this is about $1.67 million of amortization expense or depreciation expense, which is you writing the assets off over time. In terms of the significant capital additions, and so for the information of council, where you spent your money more than $50,000, the big component was the Cambridge Avenue remediation that came in at just under $2.7 million. This is what the gas tax was applied to. There's a new avgas fuel system and a card lock system at the airport for about $296,000. We talked about the John Deere backhoe that you acquired through a lease. So there's $159,000 there. You also bought some new boilers for your pool. So that was about $72,000. The last item that you could see is prepaid expenses and inventories is up by about $511,000. This is the timing of when you paid your insurance bill. So your insurance bill for 2023 was paid in 2022. Because it related to 23, you don't actually expense it in 22, you set it up as a prepaid expense. So the next statement is the statement of operations, and this is a summary of your revenues and your expenses for the year. So what you'll see is you've got total revenues of roughly $14.6 million from an operating perspective. That's up about 3.5%. or $498,000 on a year-over-year basis. Couple of things for that is your investment income is up by $353,000. This is because interest rates are up, and we talked about that with the landfill. There was a loss on disposal of assets last year. This year, you actually had a bit of a gain. So that changes about $166,000. Offsetting that is lower grants that you've received from the province of Ontario. So this is a summary of your grant revenue from the province of Ontario. The red line is, and federal. The red bar is 2022, the blue bar is 2021, and the yellow bar is 20. So from an operating perspective, you can see at the bottom, your OMPF funding has gone down. Safe Restart funding, which is money that the province provided for pandemic relief, there was a lot in 2020, a little bit in 2021, and nothing in 2022. So those are operating grants. So operating expenses have gone up by about $1.6 million or about 14%. And generally speaking, this is because of higher wages and material costs. So what you could see here is a breakdown of your expenses on a year-over-year basis. Personnel costs have gone up, materials have gone up, contracting costs have actually gone down. The material costs we're seeing is twofold. One is inflation is causing supplies to be more expensive for municipality. And also what we're seeing is with respect to public works and winter roads control, because of weather, the transportation costs are going up. So what you can see is from a operating perspective, operationally, there's about $1.7 million of surplus. There's the provision for the landfill, and then there's the government grants for capital expenditures. And this is senior government grants. These are up by about $749,000. And the big reason for that is because you've taken in all of the gas tax And you've also received OCIF funding, which is the Ontario Community Infrastructure Fund, which was used to fund your street project. So from an overall perspective, council, what you can see is that you've got a surplus of about $4.9 million. Now, council, I want to be very clear. This is an accounting surplus. It's not an actual cash surplus. And you have to be careful because people may look at this and say our taxes are too high. So from an accounting perspective, that's your surplus. The way I would try to describe it, council, is in the financial statements, there's what's called a statement of changes in net financial assets. And so what you'll find, council, is you did have a surplus of about $4.9 million. You add back about $1.7 million of amortization expense because that's just an accounting expense. It's not a cash expense. But then what you do is you deduct the $3.6 million that you've actually spent on capital. So it's important to recognize, council, that you need this surplus in order to fund capital expenditures. You need this surplus in order to fund $328,000 of long-term debt principal repayments, because that's not in the surplus. And you also need to recognize, council, that of that amount, $1.7 million was the change in the landfill liability. And as I've mentioned, that's an accounting adjustment as well. So if you think about it, you've got $4.8 million of surplus. 1.7 million of that is the landfill change. So that's 3.1 million of surplus. You add back $1.7 million of amortization. So that's 4.8. You then deduct 3.6 of capital plus the interest, or sorry, plus the principal repayments. You also deduct your reserve and your reserve fund transfers as well. So once again, council, I just want you to recognize having a surplus of 4.9 million, that's an accounting surplus. It's not true cash surplus. So, your worship, members of council, that concludes our presentation. I'd like to thank you once again for allowing us the opportunity to be of service to the town. If there are any questions, more than happy to answer them at this time.
Is there any questions from council on this presentation to this gentleman? Councilor Jiguer?
Thank you, Richard. I'm not sure if it's for this presentation or maybe for our treasury department. So he said the reserve. So is there a spot on here that we see like where our reserves were at the start of the year and where they are now? Is that like a line item or is it put into like a blanket with something else?
I'll let our treasurer answer.
If you are looking for the details, they are not available now. This is a summary presentation. So that will come later. Yeah.
Any other questions for this? Well, thank you very much for your presentation. It was very much appreciated. And have yourself a good day.
You're most
Now
welcome.
we'll move on- Thank you. Move on to 5A. Now again, a mover and a seconder. Councilor Tremblay and Councilor Bernier.
Moved by Councillor Tremblay, seconded by Councillor Bernier, that the audited consolidated financial statements of the corporation of the town of Iroquois Falls for the year ending December 31st, 2022 are approved as presented.
Now follow up again. Is there any comments or questions before we vote? All in favor? Carried. We'll move on to bylaw number 3759-23. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councilor Jiguer, Councilor Bernier.
Moved by Councillor Jiguer, seconded by Councillor Bernier, that bylaw number 3759-23, being a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy, installment due dates, and the imposition of late payment charges, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 11th day of December 2023.
Is there any comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. So uncollected tax write-off, can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councilor Jiguer and Councilor Bernier.
Moved by Counselor Jiguer, seconded by Counselor Bernier, that in accordance with the provisions of section 354 of the Municipal Act 2001, Council for the Corporation of the Town of Iroquois Falls hereby authorizes staff to write off uncollectible outstanding taxes in the amount of $10,254.97 as of December 31st, 2023.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Rural Enhancement Fund, can I get a mover and a seconder? Councilor Brandbat and Councilor Jiguer.
Moved by Counselor Brandbat, seconded by Counselor Jiguer, that council approve the Recreation Department's application for the Community Rural Enhancement Fund through the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation as required in Stage 2 of the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation's evaluation process.
Can I get our Director of Recreation, Brian Finner, to speak on this a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you all know, we upgraded our roof at the Just Jordan Arena this past summer, and this is simply trying to get some subsidy for that project. The NOHFC Rural Enhancement Fund covers 75% of those costs, up to $500,000. So if we were awarded this fund, if we were successful and our application has moved on to stage 2, we will receive $429,000, approximately $429,000 and 44 cents for this project. So that would leave the municipality covering the remainder 25%, but very good opportunity that we want to pursue and try to get some subsidy for our roof.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? Oh, okay, go ahead, Councilor Jiguer.
Thank you. So in our financial right now, is it showing that we're paying for everything?
I'll let our Sabina.
The reason why I'm asking the question, Risha, I'm just wondering if the funding comes, are we actually gonna end up, surplus, or are we counting on that funding in the number that we've already been seeing?
Could you repeat your question, please?
Sorry, so the grant that we are applying for, but the project is already complete, right? So, have we already allocated all the funds for this project? And then if we get the grant, then there will be a surplus of funds back?
That would be the assumption. Asset management. There are assets that we need that are very critical. And we don't usually find grants from the government or from Ontario or the federal. When they become available and you meet that requirement, that's when you apply. And it is always wise to do that. When when you face a local emergency, you don't wait till the grant comes in. You do that. So when the grant become available and you meet the requirement, is when you apply and put the money back into where the money came from.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. Emergency Measures Ontario for the Emergency Preparedness Grant. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councilor Jiguer and Councilor Brandbat.
Moved by Counselor Jiguer, seconded by Counselor Brandbat, that council authorize Oseba Sampem and Kwabena Oduro Konto the approval for the authority for the execution of an agreement stemming from the submission of an application to Emergency Measures Ontario for the Emergency Preparedness Grants.
Can I get, Jose, can you speak on this, please? Just so people on the audience will know what we're talking
I
about.
don't have all the facts now.
Who,
So,
who can? Can somebody speak to it or?
and who presented this on this one? Who adjusted it and put it on the agenda?
Your name's on it and Kabina.
Yeah,
But I-
yeah, this is, actually, this is in reference to a specific grant, and I will let, if Bill, if you could please. Run that for me.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Mayor Lori. What this is just in response to an email that was received today, requesting the approval in the form of either a motion or a bylaw. And the approval authority is required by this particular Emergency Management Ontario organization in order for our application to be further evaluated.
And what's the application like? Can you go into
Yeah.
detail?
So the application is for the partial costs of a generator, an emergency generator, cots, blankets, and a pallet of 50-year-old shelf life water.
Okay,
And this will be for the community hall,
yeah,
and it increases our emergency preparedness in case of the evacuation or anything else that comes to the community that is of an emergent nature.
and our director, Mark Dubé, worked with you on this, I'm assuming?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you guys very much for this. Yeah, perfect.
Thanks.
Is there any comments? Okay, Kabina, sir?
Yeah, additionally, I would like to state that, yeah, for the information of council and everyone, we have, finance practitioners, we have public, administration practitioners, working together to serve the town. We are in position to look ahead to bring the best to the town. In terms of grants and financial resources, anything that will be of benefit to the town. We are going according to the Municipal Act. If you look at Section 7, the financial administration, we are bringing in controls of all kinds to be accountable and build a sustainable town financially, that in 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ahead, everyone will look back and say, oh, we did a good job. There are emails we are receiving, there are questions that are coming up. And what I would like to say to council and everyone is that there is an objective aim at bringing the best. And we are looking for ideas and suggestions. That is why in the capital budget for 2024, we have put together a whole set of plans, including a strategic plan for the town, so that we will look ahead in 2025 and say, 2025, this is what we are going for. This is what we will need. That those items we will be guided. The same way we are going to the federal, we are going to the provincial, we are going to the non-profit organization who can finance, who can fund anything the town would need. So I just want to bring it out here that if you look at section 285, we are working on this. 289, we are looking at it. 290, we are looking at it. That we are looking at them critically to the benefit of the town. And when you do your best and people second guess you, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Councilor Brown?
Just a question, what's the amount? Do we have any specific amount or approximate amount for the emergency preparedness grant
Bill?
that we are putting on site?
Bill?
So we applied for the maximum
Oh,
of $50,000. Is just a few dollars under that.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Can I get someone to move and second, we adjourn the meeting at 7:30 PM? Councilor Bernier and Councilor Branda.
Moved by Counselor Bernier, seconded by Counselor Brambat, that this meeting adjourns at 7:30 PM.
Before we do this, we're not having a meeting, before Christmas, so I'd like to give every counselor the chance to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. We'll start with Counselor Gare and work our way around the room.
Well, just, it's been a year, none the least. I think everyone has been working hard. I just do want to thank certain people in the community that they are coming forth with questions, and it's not all negative. People, I think, are more just trying to get involved and be in tune with what's happening in the community. And I welcome that. There's been a couple of, I'll say, very constructive emails that have come my way in the last week, but they have good points on various things, and I don't see them as negative. I just see them as concerned, community members, just trying to make sure that we look at different aspects. But as everyone, I just want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and good health to all, and hopefully we can kick 24 out of the park.
Do you want to say anything?
Happy holidays.
Counselor Brambat, would you like to say anything?
Yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Also, thank you for letting us do our job. It's been 1 year completed, and I see everybody has worked hard, and we have a great community support to do our job. So thank you.
And Counselor Bernier?
Thank you for the opportunity, your worship. I'd like to obviously extend or echo what my fellow councillors have said. Thank you for the opportunity to help us guide the community. I think there's many great things happening. We're working hard at making them happen. Thank you for the people who are providing us with the support and the constructive criticism in the community. Thank you to staff here at Town Hall and people working hard here in the office as well. And to everybody in the community, no matter what you're celebrating this holiday season, please take time to be with your families and wish everyone well.
Counselor Shalva?
Thank you, your worship. You can hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Excellent, thank you. Tempest fugit, where has another year gone? I want to thank all the members of council for your great work and your assistance in the past year. All the municipal staff, town hall staff, keep up the great work. And especially want to thank the community volunteers. Without the volunteers of our community, the quality of life would be greatly diminished. So to one and all, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, bonne année et joyeux Noël à tous. Thank you.
Any staff would like to say anything before I speak, or is everybody good, or like to say a few words? Okay, I'd like to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. Please be safe. Enjoy your family time. Family is very important. And I'd like to thank my fellow councilors and my team around the table and all of our workers on the town and all the residents of Urquhart Falls for chipping in when needed. And I see very good things happening in the near future. We have to stay positive. It's okay to be negative, but at the same time, we have to push and get things done. So I appreciate all your, not taking the time to bear with us in these difficult times, but we are trying to move this community forward. And I think brighter things are to come in the near future. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Take care. And all in favor to adjourn? Okay, thank you. Carried.